اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك لا علم لنا الا ما علمتنا انك انت العليم الحكيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا الا ما علمتنا. ومن سلم شاكا في كمال صلاته بطلت صلاته. نعم، اذا سلم الانسان وهو ليس من اصحاب الوسوسه شاكا في صلاته، يعني في تمام صلاته بطلت صلاته. في كمال صلاته.
So if somebody said the salam out of their prayer while they doubted if their prayer was complete or not,
وهو ليس من الموسوسين,
and he is not in a state of waswasa, then his prayer is invalid.
نعم، لأن الذمة لا تبرأ إلا بمحقق.
Because the responsibility that is given is not removed now except with something that is certain. So now if a person's unsure whether they completed their prayer or not, and they just say, oh, they'll finish it anyways, their prayer is invalid.
نعم. والسهو في صلاة القضاء كالسهو في صلاة الأداء. هذا شيء واضح، معناه من نسي في صلاة القضاء كمن نسي في صلاة الأداء الحاضر.
And whosoever forgets in the qada prayer, the case is the same as the forgetting in the ada prayer, meaning the prayer that is due now.
نعم. والسهو في النافلة كالسهو في الفريضة إلا في 6 مسائل.
And the forgetfulness in the nafila, in the nafil prayers, in the supererogatory prayers, are the same as the fard prayers, except in 6 matters.
نعم. وهذه الست واحدة منها غير مشهورة والخمس صحيحة.
One of these 6 is something that is an opinion that is there. It's not the most followed opinion of the madhab, and then the other 5 are authentic.
نعم، وسنبين ذلك إن شاء الله.
And we'll clarify إن شاء الله.
نعم. 6 مسائل لا في الفاتحة. 6 مسائل الفاتحة، فمن نسي الفاتحة في الفريضة ليس كمن نسيها في النافلة، ولكن هذه غير مشهورة، هذه الأولى غير مشهورة، سنبين ذلك.
So number 1 is in regards to the Fatiha. The one who, and this is the one that is not the mashhur, this is not the most followed opinion in the madhab, and this is that the person who forgets the Fatiha in their fard, it's not the same as if they forget it in their nafil.
والسورة والسر والجهر.
As for the other of the 6, the number 2 is the surah, meaning the surah after the Fatiha, and then the silent recitation,
والجهر.
and then and also the loud recitation.
وزيادة ركعة.
And then in the case of adding a rak'ah.
ونسيان بعض الأركان إن طال.
And
إذا نسيت بعض الأركان كركوع السجود ولم تذكر لا بعد السلام والطول.
And then the 6th one is forgetting some of the pillars of a prayer,
كمثل الركوع أو السجود,
such as ruku', such as bowing or prostration, if a long time has passed.
بعد السلام.
After the salam.
نعم. هم شرع يبين المسائل الستة. هم شرع يبين المسائل الستة.
Then he explains the differences in regards to these 6 matters.
فمن نسي الفاتحة في النافلة وتذكر بعد الركوع تمادى وسجد قبل السلام. هذا هو الأول، قول الأول.
So then
هذا ضعيف ولكن
as for the weak opinion in regard to the Fatiha, he mentions that whoever forgets the Fatiha
وتذكر بعد الركوع
in the nafila and then remembers after they have bowed,
تمادى وسجد. يستمر
that he continues, that he says in the nafila prayer only.
نعم.
Then this is the weak opinion, that he continues the prayer and he doesn't make up the rak'ah, he just continues the prayer and then he makes up the Fatiha by doing 2 sajdas.
نعم. بخلاف الفريضة. بخلاف الفريضة.
Of course, those 2 sajdas would be the before the salam, but and they would say, and this weak opinion says as opposed to the fard prayer.
بخلاف الفريضة فإنه يلغي تلك الركعة ويزيد أخرى ويتمادى. يكون السجود كما ذكر في تارك السجود.
Because with the fard prayer we have already discussed that if somebody passes the ruku' after they have not read the Fatiha, then they have to cancel out that rak'ah as if it never happened, and then but just keep going with their prayer, and then begin the next rak'ah as if it was that rak'ah.
لكن الصحيح أن النافلة والفريضة لا تختلف.
But then the correct opinion is that both of them are the same case as the fard
وقد
prayer.
قدمنا ذلك ووضحناه ماضيا.
Both are the same case as the fard prayer, that the rak'ah is cancelled out, and we have
قد
clarified
قدمناه
this
ماضيا الأقاويل فيه كلها.
and we have clarified this before in the different opinions.
فلا تختلف النافلة مع الفريضة.
So then the nafil and the fard, both of them you'd need the Fatiha every
نعم.
rak'ah.
معناها أن الفاتحة بالنافلة فرض فقط. هذا هو
Meaning
النتيجة.
that basically this means that the nafila, that the Fatiha in the non-obligatory prayers is still obligatory, the Fatiha.
نعم. وهنا نذهب إلى المسائل الخمسة الصحيحة.
And then from here we'll go on to the 5 authentic opinions.
ومن نسي السورة أو الجهر أو السر في النافلة وتذكر بعد الركوع تمادى ولا سجود عليه.
So as for the person who
نسي السورة
in the nafil prayer forgot to recite a surah after the Fatiha,
أو الجهر
or switched silent recitation with loud,
في الليل
or switched loud with silent,
أو السر في النافلة وتذكر بعد الركوع تمادى لأن هذه مندوبات ليست سنن.
and then he forgot after the
تذكر بعد الركوع
نعم.
نسي السورة أو السر أو الجهر وتذكر بعد الركوع في
If he
النافلة.
forgot the surah or to recite loud or silently, and he remembered only after bowing, then he continues the prayer and does not make sujood.
لأن هذه مندوبات ليست سنن بالنافلة.
Because these are not at the same level as they are in the fard prayer. In the nafil prayer, these are considered mandub.
نعم. ولا سجود عليه ما لا شأن.
So there's no sujood.
بخلاف الفريضة فقد تقدم الحكم فيها.
But of course, as opposed to the fard prayers, where we have already discussed what a person does in that case.
ومن قام إلى الثالثة في النافلة فإن تذكر قبل عقد الركوع. من قام إلى الثالثة قام إلى الثالثة. تعرف النافلة ركعتان فقط. أن النافلة ركعتان فقط. هذه قام فإن تذكر بعد عقد الركوع. فإن تذكر قبل عقد الركوع قبل أن يركع رجع وهي زيادة يسجد البعد. رجع وسير بعد السلام. وإن عقد الثالثة تمادى وزاد الرابعة.
وين عقد الثالثة يعني؟
في النافلة. في النافلة.
نعم.
تمادى معناه يزيد ركعة رابعة ويسجد القبلي يجعلها نافلة.
يعني عقد الثالثة يعني كمل الثالثة كلها؟
لا عقد ركوعها.
نعم.
معناه هو إذا كانت ذكر قبل الركوع قبل الرفع من الركوع.
نعم.
يرجع وهي زيادة وهذا السجود بعد.
قبل الرفع من الركوع.
نعم هذا هو الركوع دائما اصطلاح العلماء الرفع من الركوع.
نعم.
عقد الركوع تقال رفع من الركوع إلا في مسائل خاصة. فإن تذكر قبل عقد الركوع رجع وهي زيادة السجود البعدي. فإن تذكر بعد عقد الركوع أضاف إليها رابعة وسجد القبلي صارت نافلة موافقة لأبي حنيفة ويسجد القبلي.
So then, as for the person who begins a third rak'ah in the nafila, and of course in the madhab, the nafila is always two rak'ahs at a time. So it will never have a third rak'ah. So now somebody is praying a third rak'ah, accidentally adding an extra rak'ah. And they remember that they're in their third rak'ah
قبل الركوع
before they bow or while they are in the state of bowing. So, or they start to bow. Then they go back to their sitting and they finish the salah, and then they add the and then they finish. They sit for their tashahhud. They finish, and then they add the two sajdas after the salam.
No.
Because they added now an additional standing or standing and part bowing. But if they stand up from bowing, so now they have added a third rak'ah. Now they should add even a fourth to make it a 4, because in the because there's the valid opinion from the Hanafi madhab and so on that having a 4 rak'ah nafila is permissible. So then, but then now they came short in maybe a middle tashahhud or something from their prayer. So they should do the qabli.
نعم لأنه كما نسي التشهد في 4 ركعات.
So then,
وما جلس وقام من الثانية إلى الثالثة.
Because they stood up now from the second to the third, because they didn't sit down for the tashahhud, so they're missing something from their prayer. So they should do the qabli, complete 4, then do the qabli.
وإن عقد الثالثة تمادى وزاد الرابعة والسجدة قبل السلام بخلاف الفريضة لا يقع بها أي ما تذكر يرجع سواء كان في الثالثة أو في الرابعة قبل عقد الركوع وبعده لأن هذه السجادة غير مقبولة.
But of course, if they're in the fard prayer, they never do this, because if the prayer is 2 rak'ahs, then if you remember that you're in the third,
أو ثلاثة وتذكر في الرابعة.
Whatever, if you remember you're in the third, or you remember during the 4th, you just sit down immediately and then.
في الوقت الذي تذكرت.
As soon as you remember, you just go to the sitting position and then end your prayer then. And of course, you do the ba'di sujood for adding to the prayer.
نعم. ومن نسي ركنا من النافلة هذه المسألة الأخرى. ومن نسي ركنا من النافلة كالركوع نحن قلنا فوات ركن من نسي ركنا من النافلة كالركوع والسجود ولم يتذكر حتى سلم وطال فإنه لا يقضي النافلة بخلاف الفريضة.
So then, as far as if somebody had forgotten a pillar such as prostration or bowing, and we mentioned that this was the 6th difference between the fard and the nafilah prayer, and then now they remembered after they said the salam that, oh, I forgot one after a long time, they don't do qada of it because this is a nafilah prayer as opposed to the fard where of course that
بخلاف الفريضة فإنه يعيدها أبدا,
because then they'd have to repeat the prayer.
نعم. ومن قطع النافلة عامدا أو ترك منها ركعة ركوعا أو سجودا عامدا أو ركعة أعادها أبدا. من أبطل صلاة نافلة عامدا فإنه يعيدها لقول الله تعالى ولا تبطلوا أعمالكم. هذا كنا نقول مثلا ناسيا.
But whoever cancels out their nafila prayer intentionally, that they exit out
أو ترك منها ركعة أو سجدة,
or they intentionally left out from it any fard, any like prostration or bowing or so on, then they should make it up, because Allah says وَلَا تُبْطِلُوا أَعْمَالَكُمْ, and do not invalidate your actions.
ومن تنهد في صلاته تنهد في صلاته بالهواء فقط قال هو لا تنهد في صلاته بلا شيء عليه إلا أن ينطق بحرف, والغالب أن ينطق بحرف.
And he said that as for the one who makes a sound during their prayer
بلا حرف,
without any a sound that wouldn't be, if you wrote it down, wouldn't have any letter, then there's nothing
لا يوجد حاء ولا هاء ولا باء ولا
كاف. Like you didn't make like a ha sound like or a fa sound or a kaf sound, then there's nothing upon him. He has to do, there's no harm upon him unless he does make the sound of a letter.
نعم. هذا هو اللي شهره في قول آخر ما يبطل الصلاة.
And there's نعم.
هذا هو المشهور, لكن في قول آخر ما يبطل الصلاة.
حتى لما يكون فيه حرف.
نعم, وإذا كان في حرف لا شك هذا مبطل. لأن الصوت لا يقبله, أصوات لا تقبل, هوائيات لا تقبل بعمد.
So then a sound where the air exits, that the
هذا عمد, هذا شيء عمد في الصلاة.
Now, so there's another opinion that even if it doesn't have the sound that could be written as a letter, then it would still invalidate the prayer. هذا عمدا.
نعم عمدا.
And this is of course
عمدا لغير حاجة, ما لحاجة كالتنحنح أو التنخم تقدم.
And this is done intentionally. This is speaking when done intentionally. If somebody intentionally makes a sound outside of the prayer, even if it doesn't have a letter, unnecessarily, then it invalidates their prayer in one opinion, or if it doesn't have a letter, then it doesn't invalidate the prayer. As far as if there's a need, like if the person is coughing, clearing their throat, etc., then we've already discussed that before.
نعم. وإن سهى الإمام بنقص أو زيادة, إذا سهى الإمام بنقص أو زيادة يجب على المأموم أن يسبح له ينبهه.
And if the person, if the imam is either adds something to the prayer or forgets something from the prayer, then it is required for the person praying behind him to remind the imam by saying Subhanallah, for example.
سبح له.
لابد أن تكون سبحان الله يستطيع أن يقول الله أكبر مثلا.
أي نوع من الذكر, ولكن الوارد في الحديث سبحان التسبيح.
So it can be any type of dhikr, but what is mentioned in the hadith is subhanallah.
لأن كل ذكر في الصلاة الله أكبر ولا إله إلا الله لا يبطله مطلقا.
Why is it that way? Why is it any type of dhikr? Because any type of statement of Allahu Akbar or subhanallah or all of these things that are from the prayer, they do not invalidate the prayer.
سبح به المأموم. نعم هناك مسألة إذا لم يفهم بالتسبيح يشير له يعني فقدت سجودا أو ركوعا أو تركت ركعة.
So then now if the Imam didn't understand or didn't get why they're saying subhanallah or whatever, then it's allowed for the person praying behind him to make some kind of motion to tell him like go back down, or you missed the sujood, or bow, or like stand up.
فإن لم يفهم إلا بالكلام حصل له شك وما فهم إلا بالكلام فهناك يعني كلام خفيف تركت ركوعا أو تركت سجودا أو زدت ركعة يعني خفاف بينهما.
So then now as if he still doesn't even understand, then a person can tell him in the least words possible, you make sujood, or you forgot a sujood, or you left out a rak'ah, or it's the third rak'ah or whatever.
نعم 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 فإن فارق الأضاء هذا هو اللي وقعنا فيه البارح.
And this is what happened to us yesterday.
نعم أنتم لستم حاضرين.
But to those who just came, you weren't here, you didn't see.
وإن سأل الإمام بنقص النجاة سبح بالمأموم وإن قام إمامك من ركعتين فسبح به. إذا قام من ركعتين هذا ليس واجب. إن قام من ركعتين فسبح به لكن لا تتكلم. فإن فارق الأرض فاتبعه. قام من ركعتين.
No. So now, so it's normally obligatory for you to tell the Imam if you forgot something. But now, if the Imam, for example, he got up after 2 rak'ahs and the prayer is more than 2 rak'ahs, then
قام من ركعتين عن جلوس الوسطى.
That meaning he didn't sit down after the
رأيته يريد أن يخرج.
that you see him about to stand up,
سبح له.
then do the tasbih to tell him to sit down.
خلاص. فإن فارق الأرض بيديه وركبتيه نمشي معه خلاص.
مع التسبيح.
نعم تسبح له ولكن هو إذا فارق الأرض بيديه وركبتيه لا يدرك.
So then of course, but if you see that his hands and knees have left the ground, then follow him up because he can't sit back down. Because you cannot sit back down after your hands and knees have left the floor.
فإن فارق الأرض فاتبعه بيده وركبتيه. نعم.
So if you see him that he has already left the floor with his hands and knees, then follow him.
وإن جلس في الأولى أو الثانية ليس محل جلوس. إن جلس في الأولى أو الثالثة ولم يفهم بالتسبيح أو لم يقبل وقد يكون على اعتقاد قد تختلفان في الاعتقاد. المهم أنك لابد أن تسبح له وتشير له فلم يفهم تبين له وهو لم يوافقك. رافض.
So then now, what if he sits down after the first rak'ah or after the third rak'ah? It's not the time to sit. And you tell him subhanallah, he doesn't stand up. And you do whatever you do, you motion to him, you tell him stand up. Doesn't stand up at all.
هو لا يوافقك في الرأي لا يوافق.
He doesn't agree with you.
على اعتقاد أن صلاته كملت وأنه في الثانية.
That he thinks that his prayer is either complete.
لأن كل إنسان مخاطب باعتقاده.
Or that he is on his second rak'ah, that he thinks he should be sitting. And you tell him, your three rak'ahs, and he tells you, no. So if he doesn't, if he is not going to agree with you, what do you do?
لا تمشي معه. فإن جلس من واحدة فقم. إذا لم يقبل قم أنت وانتظره هناك.
So then don't follow him. That's the case where you don't follow him. That he sat down after 2, after 1, then stand up. Wait for him on the second rak'ah and wait for him to finish sitting.
ولا نعم في الأولى أو في الثالثة فقم. في الثالثة فقم.
Or in the third, then also stand up. It's the third rak'ah, don't sit down.
وإن سجد واحدة وقام على السجدة الثانية ولم يقبل ما تريد فلا تتبعه أيضا.
And if he only makes one sajda and then stands up after
وأنت سبحت له وفهمت ما قبل.
And you did the same thing and you did the tasbih and he didn't accept, then don't follow him, don't stand up.
نعم لا تمشي معه. ثاني يسبح به ولا تقم معه لا تقم معه
So don't stand up with him in that case.
هنا يختلف الأخضري هنا يمشي على قول ضعيف ولكن أنا سأبين قول الأخضري وبعد ذلك أبين مشهور.
So then now there's a difference of opinion. There's the weak opinion where Akhdari is going to mention
لكن سأبين الصحيح إن شاء الله.
And I'll mention that first. So what do you do in that case? Now he's standing up after one sajda. What do you
قال لا تقم معه.
So we know that you don't stand up with him.
إلا أن تخاف عقد ركوع. قال لك تنتظر لعله أن يرجع عليك إلا إذا خفت أن يعقد الركوع فاترك عنك السجدة. هذا قول الأخضري واذهب معه واقضي ركعته.
So then Akhdari mentions the weak opinion here, that he says that if you
خفت عقد الركوع
that you are afraid that he's going to enter into ruku' and go beyond the ruku', and he's not listening to you, then now actually go
ترك السجدة هذا قوله هو.
Leave that other sajda, go and follow him, and then make up the whole rak'ah after he's done.
هذا قول الأخضري. هذا قول الأخضري. قال فاتبعه ولا تجلس بعد ذلك معه فإذا هو جلس في الثانية لا تجلس معه. كنت تعلم هو ترك سجدة من الركعة الأولى وأنت الآن تعرف أن ركعتك الأولى باطلة فإذا جلس هو في الثانية يعتقدها فلا تجلس معه نحي معه الركوع وقم أنت يعني هي ركعة الأولى.
And that would complicate things, of course, because now you've invalidated your first rak'ah, and he thinks that the first rak'ah is done. So then after his second rak'ah, he's going to sit down for the tashahhud, wait for him standing.
هذا قوله الأخضري لكن سأبين المشهور.
This is what الأخضري
لكن اسمعوا حتى أنا أبينه. أنا أقول له إن قراءة المتون صعبة جدا.
But now before I clarify to you the correct
هذا هو أقل متن في الفقه المالكي. هذا هو أقل متن في الفقه المالكي.
So I will clarify to you that look, reading these books on your own, and this is the most basic book in the Maliki madhab.
وأنا أقول لكم أن جميع المالكية الآن إذا أرادوا يبينوه دائما يخطئون فيه لأنهم سيتبعونهم إلا من رحم ربك.
That reading these books on your own is very dangerous and very problematic, and actually a lot of the Malikis who teach this book,
99 منهم
99% of them who are teaching this book, they make a mistake in these parts because they don't know. They just teach these opinions and they don't know and they fall into these.
ولا أعتقدهم أيضا يدرسونه حقيقة.
And I don't think even that they're teaching it at all.
أعتقدهم يدرسونه على الضعيف. لا أعتقدهم أيضا يدرسونه ولا على
الضعيف. I don't think that they're teaching the weak opinions.
أنا نهيتكم عن التسميات إياكم والمالكية وإياكم والحنفية وإياكم والشافعية وإياكم والحنبلية.
I have warned you against, sticking to any of these names. That beware of all the different names today. The people who are calling themselves Maliki or Hanafi or Shafi'i.
هذه أسماء بلا مسميات.
People are naming themselves these things without actually deserving them.
ولذلك تراهم يتهربون عندما يأتي المتون لا يمكن لواحد منهم أن يقف لا يتهرب الوضع صعب.
That you see that now all of these people they can't really face it once the texts are brought.
إذا جاءت المتون وحتى المحدثون إذا جاء صحيح البخاري فإذا هو واحد مسكين فإذا هي الوضع صعب اسماء لكن إذا جاء حقيقة المتن هذا الوضع صعب.
So once you compare them to what's in the books, or once you test them on what's in the books, then you see everybody is escaping in a different direction, that as if they didn't belong to that name that they were claiming.
المتون هي الأصل. إذا قال لك واحد محدث قل له تعالى حتى توضح لنا أبوابا من البخاري وما هي معانيها قبل أن ندخل في الباب.
But even not just the books of fiqh, but even the scholars or so-called scholars of hadith, tell them that okay, before we enter into this, can you clarify to me these chapters?
ما هي المعاني من هذه الأبواب وبعد ذلك حتى نشرع لا يمكن نطلب العلم مما لا يعرف.
What is the meaning of these different questions and chapters of hadith? Because before we cannot seek knowledge from the one who does not know.
حتى تعلم لماذا بوابة الأبواب.
So we understand that at least why were these chapters made? What is the point of these chapters?
ولا تقم معه إلا أن تخاف عقد ركوعه فاتبعه ولا تجلس بعد ذلك لا في ثانية ولا في رابعة.
So he said again that
هذا قول الأخضر الضعيف.
The weak opinion, he said, do not stand with him unless you think that unless you fear that he is going to enter into ruku', then follow him, cancel out that rak'ah, and don't sit with him on the.
إذن معه تابعه في كل شيء. فإذا جلس في الرابعة لا تجلس معه.
So don't sit with him on his any of the times that he sits, and even when he sits to end his prayer, do not sit with him.
لأن هذه ثالثة لك.
فبعد ذلك
فإذا سلمه نعم فإذا سلمه.
So then you wait, and once he is doing the final tashahhud, and you wait standing. Once he says his final salam,
تنتبه ركعتين.
Then you add one more rak'ah.
والسجود القبلية لأنك فقدت جلوس الوسطى وفقدت سورة من الركعة الأولى.
And then you, of course, now in this case, you make the qabli sujood, you make the sujood before the salam. Why? Because you are missing the sitting, and you are missing the
surah من الركعة الأولى.
A surah from the first rak'ah.
هذا قول الأخضر.
And this is
لكن هذا غير مشهور.
And this is the opinion of al-Akhdari, and this is not the majority opinion.
هذا ليس مشهورا. مشهور أنك إذا خفت إذا لم يقبل وقام للركعة الثانية ولم يقبل تبى السجدة واتبعه وأنت صلاتك صحيحة.
So then the mashhur opinion is that you know he's not going to accept, and he did not follow you, and you did the tasbih and everything, and he's keeping going with the prayer, then you do the sitting, you do the sajda now on your own, and then go and catch up with him, and then keep on doing the prayer, and your prayer is fine. And this is the mashhur opinion, and this is an easier way anyways.
نعم. وإن زاد الإمام سجدة ثالثة فسبح به ولا تسجد معه. إن زاد الإمام سجدة ثالثة فسبح به ولا تسجد معه.
And so what if the imam adds a third sujood? Then do the tasbih and do not follow him in it.
ونعم نتيجة من هذا كله إذا نقص الإمام الفرض وإذا زاد الشيء فلا تتبعه فيه.
So this means basically if the imam adds something to the prayer or takes something away from the prayer, don't follow him in it.
وإذا قام الإمام إلى خامسة تبعه من تيقن موجبها أو شك فيه وجلس من تيقن زيادته. إذا قام الإمام لزائدة خامسة أو ثالثة أو رابعة مهم لزائدة.
So now if the imam stands up for an extra rak'ah in the prayer, like
a
third in Fajr or a fifth in any 4 rak'ah prayer,
أو الرابعة في المغرب,
or a 4th rak'ah for Maghrib,
تبعه من تيقن موجبها. من عرف من تيقن أن لها سبب أنه ترك فرض أو شك يتبعه.
The one who is sure that the imam is adding an extra rak'ah because maybe he missed something.
هو على يقين أو شك.
Or whether he is certain or thinks that perhaps maybe there's a reason why he's adding the rak'ah, then he should follow him in that.
وجلس من تيقن زيادتها.
And the one who is certain that he should not be adding that extra rak'ah, then he sits down and waits.
نعم. فإن جلس الأول نحن قلنا من تيقن الموجب أو شك جلس عنه عمدا بطلت صلاته.
نعم.
من تيقن الموجب أو شك فيه يجب عليه أن يتابعه. صحيح.
نعم.
فإذا جلس.
So then what? So now a person knows had أو شك.
شك أو تيقن الموجب يعرف أن السبب للزيادة موجود.
So if a person knows that there is a reason why he's adding the rak'ah. What reason?
يعرف أنه ترك ركوعا أو سجودا.
يعرف
هو يعرف ليس maybe.
That he knows maybe that.
هو ترك يعرف. أو
نعم. Maybe كانت يعني ركعة أو سجدة يعني أي من هذا.
نعم.
That he knows for sure that he had forgotten a thing, like perhaps such as meaning a ruku' that he had missed from one of the rak'ahs, or a sujood or something like that.
أو شك.
That he had forgotten, so now he is making up that rak'ah. So if a person's certain that there's a reason for the imam to add a rak'ah, or he's doubting that perhaps there could have been.
فإن جلس عامدا بطلت صلاته.
Perhaps there could have been a reason for him to add a rak'ah, and he still doesn't follow the imam and he sits down, then his prayer is invalid.
جلس الأول وقام الثاني من تيقن زيادة أن لا سبب لها وقام معه اتبعه عمدا بطلت صلاته.
Or if on the contrary, if the person is certain that the imam shouldn't be standing up for an extra rak'ah and he still follows him, then his prayer is also invalid.
نعم.
It follows him intentionally, knowingly.
عمدا. هذا كله عمدا. وإذا سلم الإمام قبل الصلاة سبح به من خلفه، هذا واضح. وإذا سلم الإمام قبل كمال الصلاة.
And if the imam says the salam before the prayer is complete, then the people behind him should do the tasbih.
فيشيرون له إن لم يفهم بالتسبيح.
And then gesture to him if he doesn't know from the tasbih and so on.
فإن حصل له شك سألهم.
And if he's
لم يفهم بالتسبيح ولا بالإشارة.
And if their motions and their tasbih aren't indicating to him,
إشارة.
then he can ask them.
لم يفهم بالتسبيح ولا بإشارة، كما فعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. يعني سلم من ركعتين كما في حديث البخاري ناسيا.
So then this is such as the case that with the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith of Bukhari, that the Prophet ﷺ said the salam after 2 rak'ahs forgetfully.
فقالوا لديني أنا قال لأنهم لا يعرفون ذلك الوقت هل في الصلاة تشريع جديد أقصرت الصلاة أم نسيت يا رسول الله.
So then they said, did the prayer become shortened, or did you forget, O Messenger of Allah?
فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أحق ما قال ذو اليدين. قال كل ذلك قال أحق ما قال ذو اليدين سأله. قال أحق ما قال.
So then the person he said, is this true what this guy is saying? That as in, did so he knowingly asked the question.
أحق ما قال ذو اليدين هل أنا صليت فقط ركعتين؟
Is it true what he said? Did I really pray?
قالوا نعم.
So the companion said yes.
فرجع وكمل الصلاة.
So the Prophet ﷺ simply continued.
لم يحصل طول لأنه لم يحصل طول.
He continued the prayer because now there wasn't a long time that had passed.
وسجد.
And then he did the sajdas.
لا هذا بعد هنا. هاي السجود.
So in this case it would be a ba'di.
لأنه زيادة.
Because it was an addition. An addition of an extra salam.
نعم. نعم. وإذا سلم الإمام قبل كمال الصلاة سبح بمن خلفه فإن صدقوا كمل صلاته وسجد.
So if the imam says the salam before the prayer is done, then the people behind him do the tasbih.
خلاص صدقهم عرف أن هذا صحيح.
And if he believes them that yes, he knows and he gets the message
كمل صلاته.
that he didn't finish the prayer, then he just simply continues the prayer.
وسجد بعد السلام.
And does the ba'di sujood as we mentioned.
وإن شك في خبره سأل عدلين كما قلنا وجاز لهم الكلام.
And then if the imam is doubting whether the person correcting him is right or not, then he is allowed to ask, and if he asks, he can ask 2 people and they can respond to him, and it is permissible.
لكن لا يسأل أكثر من لا يجيبه أكثر من ذلك فقط عدلين يعني شخصين.
But he shouldn't ask more than 2 trustworthy people and not more than that.
فمن تكلم غير هذين بطل الصلاة لأنه لا فائدة في كلامهم.
And then if other people besides the people that he has asked start answering the question on their own and unnecessarily and just adding their voices in, then their prayer becomes invalid because now they're talking for no reason.
هذا يحصل الشك وإن تيقن الكمال عمل على يقينه.
But if the imam was certain that he finished his prayer, then he should act upon his certainty.
وترك العدلين 2 أو 3 أو 4 لا يفكر عنهم.
It doesn't matter how many people correct him.
2 3 4 إلى 4.
Whether it's 2, 3, or 4 up to 4.
إلا أن يكثر الناس بين كانوا 5 أو أكثر ليتركوا يقينه لأن خبر التواتر يقين والشخص بنفسه اعتقاده قد يخطأ.
But then if it's more than 4, if it's 5 or more, then even if he's certain that he finished the prayer, then he should act contrary to what he's certain of, because now there's such a large amount of people that it's like the level of tawatur, and then it's impossible for people, that many people, to both collectively be wrong about something. It's more likely that he's certain about something that is false.
وهنا ينتهي الكتاب الأخضري وسيبدأ إن شاء الله صوم بن عاشر يعني نتكلم عن مسائل مثلا أخرى ونكمل بها إن شاء الله.
And here the book of Akhdari is concluded, Alhamdulillah, and
من له سؤال فليسأل.
and whoever has any questions should ask. Inshallah, we'll continue a few different matters and questions and things from Ibn Ashir.
سنكمل بعض الفرائض مثلا الصومية.
And then we'll about the obligations of fasting and so on from Ibn Ashir. And whoever has any questions, they should ask.
So for the fifth person that is correcting him, then this means that, because we said that you can only ask one or two or three people, right?
إذا هم كاملين أشاروا إليه، أشاروا 5 أو 6 مثلا أشاروا إليه إن انتهت الصلاة.
So if more than 5 people are giving him a shot at
يعني خالفوه خلاص.
And he knows that there's 5 people that and he knows that every one of them is giving him a shot? How does he know?
He knows people 5 or 6 يعني يتلونات يعني أعطوه إشارات إنه زيادة.
There can be a lot of ways that he knows. That he knows that 5 people or more corrected him and are saying maybe they're saying Subhanallah or
خالفوه المهم إنهم خالفوه.
That they're contradicting what he's doing.
أنا لا يوافقون فيما هو.
هل في أي حالة أن يترك الإمام ويؤم شخص آخر؟
أكو قالوا الاستخلاف. باب يقال باب الاستخلاف. باب الاستخلاف هذا سنتكلم عنه إن شاء الله.
Inshallah, we'll talk about also the case where the imam is abandoned and then somebody else would take the position.
قالوا الاستخلاف. سنعطي منه كلام من ابن عاشر. أعطينا نص ابن عاشر.
This is called istikhlaf.
أنا الخليفة يكون بعد الإمام إذا تجدد له مطالب الصلاة.
Istikhlaf means replacement, and this is in certain cases which are mentioned in Ibn Ashir.
نعم. ما له سؤال لأن سيكون عندنا الآن نصف ساعة تقريبا هذا.
So whoever has any question to ask now, because we would have about 30 minutes inshallah.
ما شاء الله هذا أعطيه لي أنا سأعطيه التاي.
What would you call the topic of this section?
Yeah.
Sujood?
Actually, it has
This is actually following the Imam.
and there are 2 mistakes.
Toast. Do we have a break, Sheikh, or?
No.
Inshallah.
Think of some questions.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, what's the question?
Let's say you're the imam, you're leading the salah, and you believe that you weren't wrong, and you kept going. At the end of the salah, after the people behind you have already finished whatever they had to do, how do you come to the conclusion of remaking your salah, or just going about like if you were continuing in the salah and thinking you were right?
فيعني إن لم يتواتر إن لم يتواتر وتكمل الصلاة يعني على يقينك فهل يعني هل عليك شيء؟
لا الإنسان مخاطب بيقين. أنا مخاطب إلا باعتقادي.
نعم
الإنسان لا يخاطب إلا باعتقادي. علم الله تعالى يمكن أحد يخاطب.
So if you are certain, of course you should only contradict
اعتقادك.
the 4 or less people if you are certain. But if you're certain and you contradict them, it doesn't matter afterwards. You are certain. You're
كان
sure.
لك شك فاتبع العدلين.
If you're doubtful, then listen to the 2 people. But if you're certain, then up to 4 people you can ignore, and then your prayer is fine, and you don't have to make anything up, of course.
إلا إذا ظهر لك بعد ذلك العكس هذا شيء آخر.
Except that if later on you find something out that you are wrong, then that's a different matter. Then you have to repeat the prayer, of course. In that case.
So for when the Imam
هذا هو شرط الإيمان. هذه شروط الإمام ندرسها بعد هذه الفقرة وبعد ذلك نكتب كتاب الزكاة قليلا وبعد ذلك نذهب إلى هذا زكاة الفطر وبعد ذلك كتاب الصيام يعني باب قليل.
So this is in the case where the Imam is replaced and so on. This is one of the matters that is mentioned.
ما هو شروط الإمام وما هي
what are the conditions of a person being an Imam and so on. Inshallah, we'll talk about these things in
يعني فقرات قليلة يعني.
So a few additions to this class which are not present in this book, which are found in Ibn Ashir. Just a few lines.
So if the Imam does the 3rd sajda, then you're supposed to do tasbih and don't follow him.
Yes.
So you just wait until he's done, and then he stands up and you stand up with him?
Yeah.
So you don't do anything else? No qabli, no badi, no nothing?
Stay that in your state. Stay
No.
in your state.
No. But like after you finish the salah, do you have to do a badi for what the imam did?
يا هذا نعم لا شك لا سجود البعد تقدم لك هذا سجود البعد نعم الإمام هنا نعم سجود البعد يعني وجدت زيادة نعم.
Yeah, if there's something additional to the prayer.
لأن كل ما يلزم الإمام منه البعد إذا تقدم لك أنه يلزم المأموم.
So anything that would necessitate the imam to do a ba'di, the person
تقدم لك.
would need to do a ba'di as well. ولكن يعني هذا يعني إن زاد المأموم شيئا في صلاته.
لا زاد الإمام لأنه الإمام هنا سيلزمه الزيادة لأن كل ما زاده الإمام هنا قصر من قبله والبعدي يلزم المأموم ولو ترك الإمام.
So even so now of course the mistake is not on your end, the mistake is on the imam's end.
No.
So anything that would necessitate the imam to do a ba'di would necessitate you to do the ba'di even if the imam leaves that ba'di.
نعم هذا قدمناه ماضيا.
And this we have mentioned previously.
ولو ترك إمامه.
Even if the imam doesn't pray the ba'di, you do it.
أو لم يسجد القبل.
Or if he doesn't do the qabli, كيف تسجد القبلي إذا لم فإن سلم فتسجد
نعم
القبلي.
لم يفعل قبل خلاص.
نعم.
تنتبه قبل سلامه.
So then if the, like for example if the imam needed to do the qabli
لم يفعل
and he
قبل.
doesn't do it, then once he says the salam, you do the qabli, then you do your salam.
There's a question online. If someone didn't do the tasmih, not knowing if it's forgetful or intentional, as imam, what does he do?
As imam, فإن كان الإمام يعني ربما نسي أو ترك عمدا.
ماذا؟
التسميع.
سمع الله لمن حمده.
نعم.
واحدة لا تضر.
One will not cause them to do anything.
لابد من تسميعتين أو تكبيرة تسميع كل الأقوال سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر هذه لابد منها يتم أو أكثر واحد منهم لا يضر.
So the Allahu Akbar and the Sami Allahu liman hamidah, there needs to be at least two of them for it to become permissible for somebody to do the qabli.
So, for in the instance that you're supposed to be reciting silent, let's say you recite everything silent, like and you say an Allahu Akbar or something out loud, does that still cause for you to do a badi?
ذكر عن يعني إن كان في صلاة السر ومثلا تقول شيء واحد يعني جهرا.
والتكبير في صلاة السر وغيرها يعني ما في شيء الجهر به في حالة الإمام مندوب ولغيره مندوب فقط السر ما في شيء سنة مطلقة.
So as far as the
تكبير سمع الله لمن حمده ما في شيء سنة رفع به ولا الخفض به.
So as far as the Allahu Akbar and Sami Allahu liman hamidah,
لا توجد فيه مرة
there's no
جهر ولا السر ما في.
Saying the Allahu Akbar or the Sami حتى إن كان الإمام
فقط مندوب له يعني.
Of course for the imam it is mandub for him to say the Allahu Akbar Sami Allahu liman hamidah out
حتى
loud
يسمع المأمومين.
so that the people behind him can hear. But if he doesn't do so, it is a mandub thing. There's no sunnah mu'akkada in regard to reading the Allahu Akbar and the Sami Allahu liman hamidah out loud.
For the imam.
ولا غيره.
For anyone.
For anyone.
لكن إذا كان إماما مندوب له أن يرفع وإذا كان مأموما مندوب له أن يسر لماذا يسمع للناس؟
So then if a person is ma'mum, then it's mandub for him to say it low.
إلا تكبيرة إحرامه فيندب الرفع بها.
Except for the starting Allahu Akbar, the takbirat al-ihram. As for the imam, it is mandub for him to say it out loud so that people can follow him.
So if he intentionally or unintentionally says it out loud, then it's no problem.
لا شيء.
No
لا
problem.
ضرر مطلق.
There's no harm at all here.
To continue off his question, what if you're being led in Salah Asr and the person next to you is repeating Al-Fatiha out loud, Qul Huwallahu out loud through the whole Salah, 2 rak'ahs, and then he finishes it silently, though it was put from the beginning out loud, and you hear him next to you, do you ask him to repeat his Salah or do you?
فإن نزعك يعني مثلا مأموم ويقرأ معك كل شيء جهرا فما حكم صلاته؟
أفعل مكروه.
Then he does something that is disliked, his prayer is valid. حتى إن قرأ الفاتحة جهرا
إذا كان عمدا هذا عادي وإذا كان سهوا هذه بعد وقت.
So then if he did this by accident, then this is would be a ba'di because this was a forgetfulness. But if he's doing it on purpose, then it's disliked.
So for the person in that case, if he's reciting it just out loud so that the person next to him can hear, then there's no problem, right? Because that's the limit of reciting it.
يعني إذا كان جهرا فقط قدر ما يسمع نفسه ومن يليه هذا لا
That's what
يعرف.
it says. It's makruh.
Yeah, so then yeah, of course, this is an additional detail that is something that was mentioned before, that it's if he's only reading it loud enough for you to hear it and somebody further away than that, I don't know if it's necessary to, like, if you want to see the difference between what's loud recitation and what's silent recitation, then you can go back, but
إذا كان جهر بعد زيادة على من يليه هذا هو الجهر اللي يسوي يسجد البعد، وإن كان أقل من ذلك لا يسجد البعد.
So if he had forgetfully said it out loud to the level where only you could hear him and you're praying next to him, but somebody further away couldn't hear it, then there's this is forgetful, but this hasn't reached the level where it's beyond the silent. It's still considered silent because only the person next to him can hear. That's the highest level of silent recitation. But if he forgetfully recites out loud, so that even somebody far away could hear, then this person should
يسجد البعد.
يسجد البعد.
إذا كان أكثر من يليه.
يعني حتى إن كان مأموما
لا المأموم لا شيء عليه. المأموم لا شيء عليه. المأموم لا شيء.
So the person who's praying behind the imam, he shouldn't forgetfully. Now this is forgetfully.
الإمام يحمله سهوه.
The imam would hold the responsibility and the prayer would be valid, and he wouldn't, because it's his mistake and he's a ma'moom, he wouldn't add the value.
طيب أغلقها close.
No.